Okay, so this is step one of making the pate. So we're organizing our ingredients for step one. But before we get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about how people react to pate when you make it the right way. I've been making this pate for about 3 or 4 years, and I've shared it with friends and family, of course. And the most interesting comment I got was at a end-of-year hang gliding festival that we had, and everybody brought their potluck food. I brought my pate and crackers and cut little slices for people, and I gave it to this one guy who was a firefighter from Connecticut, and I guess he was kind of a gourmet, but he took it and he ate it, savored it, and looked up, and the first thing he said was, "Will you marry me?" and I said, "Well, I'm actually not gay, and I'm married, but already married, so that's not an option. But I could certainly share some more pate with you." And we got a big laugh out of that. And he was definitely not gay, but maybe pate would have turned him in that direction.
He was gay for pate.
Gay for pate.
I think everybody's gay for pate.
Another friend of mine, a friend of our family, after he tasted it at Christmas, he said, "Oh, we got to start making this and taking it to New York. We'll sell it for $400 a loaf to the top restaurants there." And whatever, we never did it, but anyway, it's good. Let me tell you, that's what I'm trying to say here. So we're organizing our ingredients for step one, and step one is preparing the 2 batches of meat, the pork batch and the duck batch. Okay, so and then those batches get spiced in different ways. So what we've done is we've prepared our spices by mixing them together. So over in this is for the pork part. And we've mixed in a little bowl paprika, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg. So and salt. It's all mixed in here, and we're gonna add the cointreau once we have the meat cut up. Over here, Elsie has finely chopped garlic and thyme. Okay, so now we've got to do our meat proportions. So here's the black duck from last December. So we need 1 pound of that. So I'm going to weigh this, and yep, it's slightly over 1 pound. So that will be going in there. And now the pork. We need pork fat, which is going to be, we're going to use some salt pork for that. That's 12 ounces. And we need 12 ounces is actually just about right. We'll add a little bit more of this, the fatty pieces, as you can see. And 13, 14. All right, so there we've got a nice amount of pork fat. And then we also need our pork shoulder. And the pork shoulder, you can see this, my little scale here. Pork shoulder, we need 1 pound of pork shoulder. So I'm going to weigh this chunk here. It's bone in, so I'm going to have to subtract some for the bone. So it says 14 ounces. I'm going to say it's more like about 10 ounces with the bone. So I need 6 ounces of the lean parts of this pork trimmings. And we'll go with a little bit there. That's a good one. And don't worry about the fat. You can kind of never have too much fat in a pate, actually. So there we go. Now, if you recall, what I did say about the salt pork is it's very salty. That's why they call it salt pork. This stuff dates back to the Middle Ages, probably and beyond that, even to the Roman Empire, which is the way they preserved meat before they had refrigeration, was they salted it. And people must have gotten to like the taste of it, because you can still buy salt pork to this day, 2,000 years later. But so I'm going to just rinse this, and yeah, it's salty. Remember, pork has to be cooked. It can kill you if it's not cooked enough, so be careful.
So don't lick it.
Spit it out. right. So that's our pork bucket here. And so what we're going to do with that bucket is we're going to slice that into little reasonably sized cubes that'll go through the sausage machine. So putting that aside there. Now the duck, I'm going to open that up.
I'll start slicing.
We'll slice this first. So we're going to slice this first. Take our meat out and slice it into really pieces that are about, between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch per side. Because this doesn't get ground. And that's Shane over there. Shane always gets, when we slice up game, Shane always gets some of the little leftover pieces like that. Because he's the dog who helped do the hunting.
And it's okay for him to eat raw meat?
Oh yeah. That's what wolves eat in the wild. Nobody's cooking food for wolves. But in the breast, sometimes there's sinews and little tendons and things like that. And if I get a piece like that, I always give it to Shane because he works so hard to help us catch these geese and ducks. And if we shoot them and they drop 100 yards away on the other side of a creek, we can't go get them. But Shane swims across the creek in December, and he.
Boy.
And he finds the dead goose or the dead duck, and he brings it back and swims back, and then he sits there waiting for us to shoot another one. In December, sometimes when he went into the Merrimack River last year when it was 12 degrees to get a goose. So he is a good hunting dog. As you're slicing the duck or the goose, always keep your eye out for pellets. In most of the world, you have to use steel pellets when you hunt waterfowl, and steel pellets will break a tooth. They're not like lead pellets. They really can cause a problem for teeth. So just keep an eye out. You can usually feel them as you're slicing it down into little chunks like this. You'd feel if there's a pellet in there because we use pretty good sized pellets for duck hunting. Because ducks are pretty tough animals, and they have a lot of fur and a lot of down, so you can't shoot them with
Ducks have fur?
Well, down, feathers. There. You want to continue doing these? Elsie?
Sure.
I'll put the pork right over here. Pork shoulder, I'm starting to slice that off the bone. Okay, we have sliced up into very small cubes the duck. So that is ready over there. And eventually the Cointreau and garlic is going to go in with that. And some bay leaves and olive oil. Over here we have the mixture of pork fat and pork shoulder that's been cut up and all mixed together. Okay. Our next step is we're going to prepare the puree that we mixed with this. That's what we're going to do right now. So the puree is, we take 2 eggs. Bingo. And we take 1/4 1/4 of a cup of chicken livers, which is right here. We are going to use that bowl and hit
Tear.
tear.
Left.
There you go, 1/4 pound is 4 ounces. So we have our 4 ounces, and then we will refreeze these for the next time. And we
Oh, don't put them right there.
and so now we're going to puree it using this machine. Put the rest of that in there. Okay. And then we're going to add, just sprinkle, as I mix it, sprinkle in the spice mix. Okay. Grind. That's the nice, rich mixture. Now we're going to grind this through the sausage machine. So